1945. A classroom somewhere in Japan. Kazuo Odachi, 17 years old, sits with dozens of other teenage boys. They're students, children really. A few months ago they were studying mathematics and literature. Now they're sitting in military uniforms, listening to an officer explain how they're going to die. The officer is matter-of-fact, clinical. You will be part of the Special Attack Corps, he says. Your mission is simple. You will fly an aircraft loaded with explosives directly into an American warship. The impact will sink the ship and kill the crew. You will also die. There is no parachute, no ejection seat, no way to survive. This is a one-way mission. The room is silent. Nobody moves. The officer continues. Now, who volunteers? More silence. These are teenagers. They don't want to die. They have families, girlfriends, dreams. The officer's expression hardens. His voice drops. If you don't volunteer, your families will be punished. Hands go up, slowly, reluctantly. Kazuo Odachi raises his hand. He's just volunteered to commit suicide for the emperor. Except Kazuo Odachi doesn't die. Not on his first mission, not on his second, not on any of his 9 kamikaze missions. Every time something goes wrong, every time he returns alive. And in 1945 Japan, returning alive from a suicide mission isn't heroic, it's shameful, it's cowardice, it's the worst thing a pilot can do. Before we dive into Kazuo's 9 missions and what happened to pilots who returned, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from, and hit subscribe for more incredible WW2 stories. By late 1944, Japan was losing the war, badly. American forces had captured the Philippines. The U.S. Navy controlled the Pacific. American bombers were destroying Japanese cities. Japan's military was running out of pilots, planes, fuel, everything. Conventional warfare wasn't working. Japanese pilots couldn't match American numbers or technology. So the Imperial General Headquarters made a desperate decision. They would use their pilots as guided missiles, human bombs. The tactic was called Special Attack, or Tokotai. The Americans called it kamikaze, divine wind. The first official kamikaze attack happened October 25, 1944, during the Battle of Leyte Gulf. 5 Zero fighters, each carrying a 250-kilogram bomb, dove into American ships. One hit the escort carrier USS St. Lo. The ship exploded and sank. 4 pilots died. The 5th also died when his plane was shot down. The tactic worked. 1 mission, 1 carrier sunk. The Japanese military was ecstatic. They immediately expanded the program. By early 1945, thousands of young men were being trained as kamikaze pilots. Kazuo Odachi was one of them. He joined the Japanese military in 1944, wanted to be a regular pilot, fight conventionally, maybe survive the war. Instead, in early 1945, he was reassigned to kamikaze training. The training was minimal. They taught him to take off, how to fly straight and level, how to dive at maximum speed toward a target. They did not teach him how to land. Landing wasn't necessary. He wasn't coming back. The planes were loaded with maximum fuel, not to extend range, but to create bigger explosions on impact. They carried the heaviest bombs available. Some pilots flew regular Zero fighters. Others flew outdated training planes. Some flew Oka rockets, essentially manned missiles with no engine, just a rocket booster. You got dropped from a bomber, ignited the rocket, and had maybe 30 seconds of flight time before impact. It was a flying coffin. Kazuo's first mission came in April 1945. The target? American ships off Okinawa. The largest amphibious invasion of the Pacific War was happening. Thousands of American ships, perfect targets. Kazuo climbed into his Zero fighter. The plane was loaded with explosives. He had enough fuel for a one-way trip. No radio, no parachute, nothing but a photograph of his family tucked into his flight suit. Before takeoff, Kazuo and the other pilots performed a ceremony. They drank sake, received ceremonial headbands, white cloth with the red rising sun, soaked in blood donated by schoolgirls from a nearby school. They wrote final letters to their families, said goodbye to their friends. Then they took off. Kazuo's engine failed 15 minutes into the flight. The plane started losing power, sputtering. He couldn't maintain altitude. He turned back, made an emergency landing at the base. He survived. Mission failed. The interrogation began immediately. Why did you return? Engine failure, sir. Are you sure? Yes, sir. Did you try to reach the target anyway? The engine was dead, sir. I couldn't maintain flight. They didn't believe him. Or maybe they did, but they were angry anyway. Other pilots had succeeded. Other pilots had died. Why did Kazuo get to live? He was sent back to his barracks, avoided by the other pilots. Nobody wanted to associate with someone who'd returned from a kamikaze mission. It was bad luck, or cowardice, or both. Mission number 2. A week later, same target, American ships off Okinawa. This time, weather. A massive storm front moved in. Visibility 0. The squadron couldn't find the American fleet. After circling for 2 hours, fuel running low, they were ordered to return to base. Kazuo landed, survived again. Mission number 3. Engine trouble again. A different plane this time, but same result. Couldn't reach the target area. Returned. By now, Kazuo was developing a reputation, the pilot who couldn't die. Fellow kamikaze candidates whispered about him. Some thought he was sabotaging his own planes. Others thought he was a coward finding excuses. The truth was simpler. He was unlucky, or lucky depending on perspective. Missions 4, 5, 6, more failures, weather, missed targets, equipment malfunctions. Each time Kazuo returned alive. Each time the shame grew. In Japanese military culture, especially in 1945, death for the emperor was the highest honor. Kamikaze pilots who succeeded were celebrated as heroes. Shrines were built for them. Their families received honors and pensions. Pilots who returned, they were failures. Some commanders suspected cowardice. Others thought the pilots were deliberately avoiding death. In some units, pilots who returned from kamikaze missions were beaten, interrogated brutally, forced to go on another mission immediately. The psychological pressure was immense. Kazuo later said, "We were essentially cajoled into committing suicide." That's what it was, coerced suicide. The Japanese government dressed it up with language about honor and sacrifice and duty, but the reality was simpler. Teenage boys forced to fly planes into ships because Japan was losing and had no other options. Many pilots didn't want to die. They wrote letters expressing doubt, fear, sadness. One pilot, Kazuo Odachi, age 17, wrote to his grandmother, "Decisive battle has come for me." But other letters were darker, expressing regret, questioning whether the sacrifice meant anything. Lieutenant Yukio Seki, who led one of the first kamikaze attacks, told a war correspondent before his final mission, "Japan's future is bleak if it is forced to kill one of its best pilots. I am not going on this mission for the emperor or for the empire. I am going because I was ordered to." Seki died October 25, 1944. He never had a choice. By May 1945, Kazuo had been on 8 kamikaze missions, 8 failures, 8 survivals. Then came mission number 9. This one was supposed to be different, better weather, more planes, better intelligence on American ship locations. Kazuo took off with dozens of other kamikazes. They flew south toward Okinawa. Then, mid-flight, the order came through, abort, return to base. Japan was running low on pilots and planes. They couldn't afford to waste assets on a mission that might not succeed. Kazuo turned back, landed, survived his 9th suicide mission.
He fully expected to be sent on a 10th, a 20th, however many it took until he finally died. But something else happened first. August 15th, 1945. Emperor Hirohito's voice crackled over the radio, the first time most Japanese citizens had ever heard their emperor speak. He announced Japan's surrender. The war was over. Kazuo Odachi was 18 years old. He'd volunteered for 9 suicide missions, survived all 9. The war ended before Japan could send him on a 10th. He lived when thousands of his fellow kamikaze pilots had died. Between October 1944 and August 1945, more than 3,800 kamikaze pilots were killed. They sank about 47 Allied ships and damaged hundreds more. But the tactic failed to change the war's outcome. Japan still lost,
and thousands of young men died for nothing. After the war, Kazuo struggled. Survivor's guilt consumed him. Why did he live when so many others died? Was he a coward? Should he have tried harder to complete his missions? These questions haunted him for decades. He rarely talked about his experiences. The shame was too great. In post-war Japan, former kamikaze survivors weren't celebrated. They were forgotten, ignored. Some were even blamed for surviving when they were supposed to die. It wasn't until decades later that Kazuo began speaking publicly, giving interviews, sharing his story. He wanted people to understand the reality of kamikaze operations, that most pilots didn't volunteer willingly, that many were coerced through threats against their families, that surviving a mission brought shame, not relief. Kazuo Odachi died in 2023 at age 97. He lived 78 years beyond when he was supposed to die. In his final interviews, he said, "I was one of the lucky ones, but the memories never leave you. The faces of the pilots who succeeded, who died, they're with me always." So what's the lesson here? What do we take from Kazuo Odachi's story? Maybe it's that survival sometimes requires more courage than death. Dying in a kamikaze attack was, in a dark way, easy. You fly, you crash, it's over in seconds. But living with the knowledge that you survived when others died, carrying that guilt for 78 years, that's harder. That requires a different kind of strength. Or maybe the lesson is about the insanity of war, that governments sent 17-year-old boys to die in suicide attacks, threatened their families if they refused, created a culture where death was honorable and survival was shameful. That's not strategy, that's desperation masquerading as honor. 1945, 9 suicide missions, 9 survivals, 1 teenager who lived to age 97. The incredible true story of Kazuo Odachi. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment. What would you have done in Odachi's position? Thanks for watching.